All right, good afternoon everybody. Welcome again to my roof deck. I just wanted to do a quick video today. Trying to get this in before it starts storming here in Chicago. The weather is looking pretty gnarly up to the north, and so I just decided to get out here and do this pretty quickly. Today I wanted to do a video that was requested by someone who's following me, and that is to talk a little bit more about the structure and the methodology of my dissertation. And I thought that that would be a really cool video, a really interesting topic, and one that I would love to share with everybody. And so, like I've mentioned before, action research is a kind of research that is a little different than traditional research. Traditional research is often focused on a researcher being on the outside of an organization, being on the outside of whatever they're studying. A way that I like to think about it is to think of traditional research as a testing company that is giving a school some kind of test, whether it's the SAT or the ACT. They get the test scores from the students and they come back and they compile the data and they show their results, while action research is more akin to the act of education itself. You are working directly with your students, you're working directly with your subjects, and you're trying to improve the outcome for them. That's a really broad oversimplification of the process, but I think it's a pretty good metaphor to try to understand a little bit of the differences between action research and traditional research. Now, for my particular study that I did for my dissertation, you might be asking, what did I do for that? So what I did is I started off with what is called a problem of practice. Now, what a problem of practice is it's some kind of issue that a organization or a community has that they want to improve. It can really be anything. Your problem of practice can be anything. It's just some issue, something that the community wants to improve, something that an organization might want to do better. The problem of practice that I chose for my dissertation was that special and general education teachers weren't collaborating with one another when they were trying to educate special education students. They weren't talking with each other, they were working in isolation, and that was the problem that I chose to focus on for my dissertation. And how action research works, it works on these things called cycles. And what cycles are essentially iterations of data collection, observation, data analysis, trying to draw conclusions from your data, and then making plans for your data for future action. Each one of those things is a cycle. And in my dissertation, I had two of those cycles. The first cycle, cycle one, as it's called in my dissertation, is essentially me trying to find out my baseline. And what I'm trying to find in cycle one is the exact nature of that problem, how it exists in the research site that I am studying. I am not trying to solve collaboration for every single school, every single educational setting all across the nation. I am trying to do it for my specific research site, and to do that I really need to know how this problem of practice manifests at my site specifically. And from there, what I did is I took the answers that my participants gave me and I compared them, and what I was looking for were themes or consistencies across their answers, across their reports. What did the group as a whole tell me about what the problem of collaboration looked like at the research site? And from there, what I do is I start to look for the root cause of the problem. Why is it that special and general education teachers are not collaborating effectively? I'm looking for that problem and the reason that problem exists at my research site. In order to do that, I take the themes of the answers that my participants have given me and I start to compare them with research literature. I start to look at what other studies have found about those topics. Have other studies found that special and general education teachers have a difficult time collaborating with one another? Why did they find it? What happened? What was going on at other schools or other sites? Did I find where teachers were effectively collaborating together? What did that look like at those schools? I'm looking at all these research sites and all this different research. There's a plane. So I'm looking at all this different academic research and I'm comparing what is in the academic research with the answers that my participants have given me, with the themes that they have shown me, with the themes that I have found within their interview answers. And I am trying to find what are the leverage points that I could push, that we could push, the participants and I together, in order to improve collaboration at the research site. And so that's my cycle one in a nutshell. I collected data regarding what is going on with the problem of practice at my site. I analyzed that data, analyzed the interview questions, interview responses that I had done with my participants. I drew conclusions from them, and then also started to make a plan of action for the future to see what could we do at the research site that would improve this collaboration between special and general education teachers. And from there, I go right into cycle 2. And like I said, in cycle 1, I made the decision that I thought that providing special and general education teachers the opportunity to collaborate with one another in a workshop would be the most effective way to help them collaborate. And so I started to implement a workshop. I talk with the site administrators to see what kind of things they would be open to. I start to get the necessary permissions. I find participants who would be willing to engage in the workshop, see what they would be interested in doing, and set it up and set it up for the participants. And what I do there is I had a workshop that lasted for 8 weeks, and I just sat and observed the workshop. I watched the participants engage in the collaborative process during the workshop, and to see how were they collaborating with one another, what were their conversations like, what were they working on together, how were they working on together, and just seeing how effective the workshop would be in supporting collaboration between special and general education teachers. And after the workshop had concluded, I did another round of interviews with my participants. Now, the participants that I had for cycle 2 were different than cycle 1, and so it was really cool to have a completely new perspective to be included into my cycle 2. It really gave my study a pretty wide base of perspectives, which I thought was really neat. But yeah, from there, I just kind of do what I did before with cycle 1. I interview my participants, I find themes within their answers, find commonalities between their answers, compare that to previous research that had been done in previous studies, draw conclusions between those comparisons, and then start to make a plan of action for the future. And while my study ended after cycle 2, there's nothing about action research that forces anyone to stop after cycle 2. I could have gone on to a cycle 3, a cycle 4. I'm still working on the details of my dissertation, but in broad strokes, some of the things that I did worked really well. Some of them didn't work well. In cycle 3, there are things I would want to work on to do it better, to do it differently, to improve my process, because I think that would have a better outcome for the students and the teachers. So hopefully that answers some questions about my research. Hopefully that explains a few things. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments. Also, leave me a like, leave me a subscribe, tell your friends about how great I am, and stay tuned for future videos. Thank you.